Welcome to a new episode of the Crowd Assist podcast presented by Trainwreck Sports. As always, we are sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. I hate the stereotypical marketing spiels, but now I have my own that's actually personal, so I'm going to keep doing it anyways. I moved to Long Island like a year ago, a little more, and I don't care what my girlfriend who lives here says. I don't care what her family says. I don't care what John Boyd told me when I met him in a Brooklyn pizza joint last November. Picasso's Pizza, Buffalo Pizza in general, is where it's at. When I think of Buffalo, I think of Picasso's, and they're open for takeout and delivery, and they actually deliver nationwide. I've mentioned that on every show because I'm still shocked about it. So now I don't have an excuse. I don't have to go fight with John Boyd every time I want a slice of pizza. I could just have Picasso's delivered to me here on Long Island. So, now is the time to support local businesses and do your part by making Picasso's a part of your game day traditions. As always, I got Kevin Massari here joining me on the cap. How's it going today, man?
Living the dream, man. How are you today?
I know you always are. I'm doing all right, thanks.
Yeah, that's my MO, man.
Hell yeah. And then joining us for the first time today, we have the host of the Cover One Buffalo podcast, generally likable guy from what I understand, and also confirmed psychic, Greg Tompsett. Greg, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to see you guys. Excited to come on and have some fun.
Hell yeah. We got a lot to cover. We'll just jump right into it. Obviously, a lot of news this week with fans going into games, whether they will, whether they're not. We know that Miami, they're going to be allowing 13,000 about for the first couple games, or at least for all games, probably going on we'll see when we get there basis. And then obviously Buffalo today announced that they're going to keep with the plan of not having any fans in the stands for the first 2 weeks. And McDermott was pretty vocal about what Miami's doing and, just the state of it across the league. And we're not used to seeing that from him. So, Greg, maybe what did you make from Sean McDermott's comments on the matter?
So I would be careful to read into, you're right. He's pretty tempered with the things that he does. I would say that he's more frustrated in the sense that he's such a believer in consistency and level playing fields and equal competition, and that it's really difficult to explain why one team gets to have fans and another doesn't. On the other side of things, from a personal sense, I run a business and have to make business decisions all the time. When you have a company that is going to be starved for revenue, I know we've all talked about the salary cap floor next year of 175 million. It's likely going to be much lower than that. They're going to have to make up for in the 4 seasons following to smooth it out. It's really tough to tell a business that, hey, in your state, you're allowed to bring in fans, you're allowed to make that revenue, but since this other team and this other company in this other state can't, we're not going to let you, and we're just going to lose that money. So I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think there's one that is significantly stronger than the other. I get the competitive fairness argument. I get the starved revenue argument, and I understand why they're going this route, and I also understand why Sean McDermott's pissed.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, unfortunately, we're going to unprecedented time, and it just comes down to what the team wants to do. And McDermott's going to show a little frustration there. He's probably in the camp of competitive fairness. And on that side of it, I understand, and I agree with that. But at the same time, it's just such a weird time. And if Florida and Miami and the area thinks that they can support it and there is a way to keep people safe and draw that revenue, and I'm assuming this is going to be upper end revenue, right? We're not talking about the 300 levels being, because there's no one's in there anyways in Miami. So we're talking about corporate clients, probably socially distant, making a big chunk of the revenue. I bet you comes out of that 13,000. So they're looking at it like, we're getting our corporate sponsors. It's not going to be your run-of-the-mill fans out there taunting the Bills as they run on the field. I mean, you're talking about your Dallas Cowboys, New England Patriots style fans that are out there. So to me, I don't think it matters either way. It's a fun talking point. But obviously the Bills come out today and said they're not going to have fans. We'll see if they do it all. I mean,
they announced the first 2 games.
Yeah, they said that, and then they're just going to go on whatever the state says, and they'll collaborate with them throughout it all. What concerns
October
me,
15th. Is available, that everyone's playing that Chiefs game, possibly have some fans. But if the fans are going to be allowed, it's going to be the same as Miami. It's going to be who's going to be allowed there. Rich Products, whatever companies at M&T Bank. Like, yes, maybe you can get a ticket through there or whatever, bring your family, which is great. Sit in your restaurant style seating. But does it really? Is it going to be anything that affects the game at all? I mean, that's the fundamental question.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll affect like the competitiveness of the game with like 13,000 fans. I know they've been talking about like how the crowd noise might be amplified or something of that nature, so it'll probably be even in that regard. Because what concerns me about it is just the NFL obviously has been doing this virtual bubble concept, and they it seems like it's worked out pretty well, all things considered. But the one thing that they can't test and prepare for is the fact that a new variable of having fans in the stadium could have on the spread of the virus per se. And like, especially in a city like Miami, like, you can control a lot, but you can't control someone, getting mad about how hot it is and he has to wear a mask. So, there's just so many, unknowns in all of it that, I almost wish the whole league would like, make a decision on it and say like, okay, this is how things have to be done if you're doing it, or this is all how things have to be done after 2 weeks into the season or something. I just wish there was that consistency that maybe Sean McDermott was talking about. And if that's the point he was making, I completely get behind him.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to argue that concept in that point. I mean, it's revenue, it's rev share, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, other teams are making money off of that. So if they're able to do it safely, and then your team, your city's not taking the risk, I don't know. Hopefully that isn't the deterrent of stopping, but I think the worst case scenario is something happens there and then all fans are axed. It wouldn't affect the players or the league per se. I would hope not.
Yeah.
So I think that people are, willing to take the risk there, bring in revenue, and other teams should be more okay with it because of that rev share and helping. Maybe it brings up that floor a little bit if a certain amount of teams are. It doesn't look like many teams are doing it though, from the official numbers as they come in. So
well, and like you said, there's no precedent, there's no playbook, there's no step-by-step instruction of what you're supposed to do, and no matter what you decide to do, roughly 30 to 40% of the people are going to hate you and think you're an idiot. So there's no right answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but definitely something where there is a right answer is who is the best player at training camp, it seems right now. And Gabriel Davis, talk of the town, like, holy hell. Matt Perino, who was on Sunday, said that at times he looks like he's the best player on the field, and that's even when Stephon Diggs is out there. Josh Allen hit him on a nice deep route on Monday, hit him on a nice pass today. Tomorrow, by the time this airs, obviously. And Trey White even, complimented on the route, which is just really cool to see that from your number one corner.
That's saying something.
Yeah, for real. So Greg, is that, like, your favorite storyline of training camp right now, or would you pick something else maybe?
So, I mean, obviously, it's fantastic. I've heard today that there was some great chemistry between Josh and Stephon Diggs. I love seeing Diggs be as vocal as he is, going back and forth, talking with people. And I think that's actually a really good example of some of the miscommunication and misunderstanding of him. Last year, he speaks very demonstrably. Like, he speaks very, very aggressively with his hands. Like, he's very emotional with his face. And you can tell that everybody else was engaged with what he was saying. Like, people weren't upset. He wasn't yelling at them, but he speaks almost aggressively in the way that he talks. And I think some fans saw some of the sideline cam stuff there, and it kind of gives you a little perspective that maybe he wasn't exactly how he was painted to be. And John Brown brought it up early about the rookies, how smart they were, how quickly they were catching on to things. Diggs has talked to them back and forth. A lot of the shots they were showing was Diggs talking to Gabe Davis, and I don't know that he's going to all of a sudden carve out some huge role. So I temper any Bills fans who are ready to snag him in their fantasy league. I dial back a little bit. There's still going to be a pretty defined top three in the pecking order at receiver. But the fact that he's making people talk about that is awesome. Like that's a really fun problem to have. That our rookie's playing so well that how do we get him on the field? That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, really. Kevin, your turn. Favorite storyline from training camp, if you got
one.
I
mean, I'll first start by adding myself because I did not like the Gabe Davis pick at all.
Yeah.
I was pretty.
I liked Hodgins more. I wanted Hodgins over.
Yeah, that seemed to be the sentiment that a lot of people like the 6th round pick better than the 4th.
And here's my tweet from the night. I was fine with the wide receiver position, but preferred a few other receivers. Davis doesn't have a large route tree in his profile. I know Eric Turner from Cover One went through some stuff there and kind of backed that up a little bit, but does do some things really well. I just didn't know if it would translate, and it absolutely seems like it has. And his weakness in his profile was Davis is a massive project at this point. It's concerning his routes were sloppy. even on one of the most limited route trees of the of anybody in the NFL draft. Limited quickness and explosiveness. Davis doesn't profile as a separator at the next level, and that's kind of what jumped out to me. But I mean, he's been doing it over Trey White in training camp, and that's all I need to see to show that. I don't know how hard Trey's playing. I don't want to say one way or the other that he, how much it matters, but I mean, the storyline to me has to be there, because if my bar was so low, where I'm talking like he's a 4th round pick, I don't know that he was 100% on the team. That's where I started personally, at that low of a bar where he was fighting with Robert Foster. I'm not going to put him even over Hodgins until they both play. But now we're talking about legitimately, fantasy player. You're talking about, number 3 receiver. If, is he better than Beasley? No, I mean, you're talking about a bunch of stuff at this point. Is he going to play on the outside? So to me, like Greg just said, you have to totally handle these expectations with him right now. Maybe he comes in and is the next Stephon Diggs, a later round pick that plays well, and we've seen that happen. But it is quite the story, because for me personally, and it isn't because it's talked about so much, I had him pretty low. It was my least favorite pick of the draft, the wide receiver draft. But then watching Brandon Beane's conviction, I hope he runs slow. I hope he does this. I hope he does that, so that he's available. Was interesting to me that he does really. Brandon Beane loves the talent, and I think and I'm a huge Brandon Beane guy, but I think the weakest part of his evaluation has been the receiver position to this point, and that's why he's gone out and spent money on established players. And they, obviously it was a little bit more McDermott or whoever was in. They missed on Zay Jones and traded for Kelvin Benjamin, and they did a few things that weren't. The receiver room was a mess prior to the John Brown signing. It's been his weakest spot for sure. They totally revamped that, and it's like the strongest spot. So for me, I'm going to temper those expectations with Gabe Davis, but it does look like he's everything and more than I could have ever wanted, and that's a huge storyline. I mean, I'm a big Isaiah Hodgins guy. I was sure he would take over for Duke Williams' role. Yeah. So this whole thing's interesting. I think to the point where you might have to keep 7 receivers if you can afford a linebacker or something, because it's that deep, and maybe as the season goes on, you can have some trade value or something. I don't know that I would expose all these guys, but I mean, that's up to Greg to say if he thinks that, a guy like Duke Williams is practice squadable at this point. Do you let, do you let McKenzie go? And I've always been a big McKenzie fan. So I don't know, Greg, your opinions on the room in general. And if you can go with 6, we all know the Roberts debate now. Everyone seems to argue that.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday too, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, it gets heated anytime it comes up. But it's going to be tough, because I think every team is having this debate. I think that there's going to be less team-to-team claiming than there has been in recent years, just because so many teams are trying to figure out how to get the right people in. You've only seen your guys in camp. Everybody's trying to get their own guys onto their own practice squad. There's going to be some obvious ones that they're going to have their pro personnel guys out there looking and mining for the obvious players. We saw it just moments ago where Curtis Weaver got claimed by the Browns because the Dolphins are trying to be sneaky. That's kind of a dumb one in my opinion. That it was while no one else had any other transactions going. It was the only move on the wire at the time, and that you're just bringing the attention that everybody just did their draft homework on. That's a lot different than, hey, when's the last time we saw Robert Foster? Do we think that still translates? We have other guys that we kind of think highly of that had their flashes and moments too. We're not putting in a claim for that guy. We have our own, maybe wide receiver guy. Those are much less obvious. The same thing, whether it's a Darryl Johnson or even a Dane Jackson or people like that. I think there's a risk with all of them. If you have the wrong team come up, maybe somebody needs a Vincent Taylor. Maybe somebody needs a Corey Thompson in that moment. I don't know that there's anyone that we're going to expose to waivers that is so critical at our success that they were going to be on the practice squad, but now having them claimed by somebody else means that we made some travesty of a mistake that is going to impact the season. The Bills have a great problem to have in the depth of the roster. There's going to be, I hope that we see more Brandon Beane cut down day trades to recoup some value in some certain pockets. But, it's pretty straightforward in that there's going to be guys that are going to upset people. How we're going to figure out where those things go and who's going to be the ones to get claimed. I think that Duke, McKenzie, and Foster are all guys that can be on the practice squad if they want. I don't think there's going to be teams clamoring to put in claims. I think McKenzie's the most likely, but even he was dropped and claimed multiple times before they gave him a shot, and he was okay. It's not like he was some world beater putting out amazing film that everybody's beating down their door to get. I think there's a chance that he could get claimed, and if he does, I'd wish him all the best.
Yeah, no, I remember on Sunday, Perino said that he was just shocked that he wasn't writing about McKenzie as much as he thought he would be, because, everybody's usually just like such a big McKenzie guy. He's like that Swiss Army knife guy, great on the end arounds. We were talking about receivers and how our room is just a lot of really fast, really talented guys now. And like that's what you say about the Chiefs receiving room. Yeah. It's just they're all really fast, really talented, and they can do magic with the ball in their hands. And even with Zach Moss joining the offense now, that's just another great playmaker I think we'll have this year. One thing I'm looking forward to following as the training camp goes on, and Greg, it's actually something you posted on Twitter about that I want to pick your brain about, is how Josh Allen's been improving, specifically with his footwork, because that's something that's been, a little shaky, and something, they say you can't teach accuracy, but, if he can fix his mechanics on how he's throwing and how he's setting his feet and everything, that's something that can positively impact that. So what have you seen different from him over training camp so far in the limited video that we've been able to get?
Yeah, for sure. And we've done a lot of different work. Eric has done some really nice video breakdowns. You obviously hear about some of the work that he's done with Jordan Palmer. And then Eric actually reached out to kind of a throwing mechanics expert, Tom House, kind of talking about, and you see us joke all the time about the burger. And it's really just that offhand that when you're finishing, you kind of get that Johnny Unitas or that Usain Bolt move where everybody has their arm way out straight. And that's not actually the right mechanics. You actually want it turned back in to have compact, quick movement with your shoulders. So you should be finishing with the hand coming back there, almost like you're feeding yourself a big juicy burger. So we saw that, and that the feet were more compact, and laid out examples where before even the exact same route, exact same 3 steps, you could see the difference, that the feet were wider. His left foot was splayed out far to the left, not pointing and stepping towards where the target was. You saw that his base then is widened, and then he's throwing it all upper body. His left arm falls away. It's all with the arm. Now he's staying compact. It's tight. The shoulders are staying level. Those are, sadly, those are things that a lot of quarterbacks do better earlier, but that's not what Josh Allen's life was like. He wasn't in, some crazy Elite 11 camps group in high school. He wasn't doing the 7-on-7 leagues in the summer. He wasn't getting invited to any of those things. He didn't go to an air raid school doing tons and tons of reps of passing. He was going to a JUCO and then a bare bottom level Division I program where he was the entire offense and running the ball half the time. And now he's learning some of the finer things of those mechanics. So it's a shame that it's 3 years into his NFL career where that's happening. Yeah. But people who were assuming that he is what he is, because most quarterbacks are defined by that point, that was always one of the things that I would bring up most adamantly, was his capacity for improvement is greater than the average scenario because he didn't have this. Not that he did those things that did him poorly, it's that he never had those reps. He never had those chances to do things. So whereas somebody like Baker Mayfield, he is a more defined, prepared product. He's done those things. There's not that many things you can show him rep, practice, drill-wise that he hasn't done because he's had so many more reps than Josh did, and he's older. Now Josh is doing those things, and he might not do it well. He might not pick it up. He might not improve with it, but he has the chance to, where other quarterbacks, they've already maxed out that piece. They've already been coached on that. They've already done that drill. They've already done those things. And that he still has to have the humility to be coached, the work ethic to put in the time and effort to drill it. But if he does, there's capacity for improvement there that some guys had already tapped out. So we'll see if it translates onto the field. But onto the game field and real reps with bullets coming at you and defenders coming at you and everything like that, I still want to see it then. But what I've seen so far in camp is legit. Like, that is real noticeable improvement, and we showed it side by side with clips from just last year. It's better. So, I mean, we need to see it happen in the game, but it looks good so far.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and it's a sign of good things to come, really, for the Bills offense, who, Brandon Beane's still waiting on the extension, and I'm confident that he'll get one if Josh Allen isn't able to make the next step, because usually GMs and quarterbacks are tied to that. But we see Sean got one, Brandon Beane's next in line. And I think Josh Allen will just give us another reason to bring Brandon Allen. Jeez, I don't want him. Bring Brandon Beane back, keep him here as the GM for a while. On the topic of Josh Allen, I did say I was going to have some trivia for you guys today, and it's going to be quarterback-related trivia. So in front of me, I have the top 10 Buffalo Bills quarterbacks in completion percentage over the course of their Bills career. At least 500 pass attempts as a quarterback for the Bills. What we'll do is we'll start with Greg, and you guys will go back and forth naming. If one of you gets something wrong, then the other person is alone and has to finish the list on their own.
Tyrod's an easy one.
Yeah, Tyrod's number one with 62.6%. Kevin.
So, sorry, what was how many games did you need? I'm sorry, how many?
At least 500.
500 passes.
500 pass attempts, I'm sorry.
500 attempts. Okay, oh, okay. That changes
So
it.
a season's
about a
worth
season,
of, or a cobbled together season's worth.
That's better. Trent Edwards.
Trent Edwards, yep, number 2, 60.9%.
Wow,
that's almost
he carried
it.
61. Wow, he's number 2?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, let's move on.
All right, Greg, over to you.
Bledsoe
is number 7, 59.1. All right, Kevin, over to you.
Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly's number 4, 60.1%. Fitzpatrick is number 5 with 59.8, and that's not great to have as your number 5, I guess.
Yeah, 5th all time isn't 60%.
Oh boy, he's still in the division.
All right, Kevin, we're halfway through the list.
A guy I remember because this was the debate going on back in '99, but I'm gonna go with Rob Johnson.
Number 3, 60.5.
Yeah, I remember that was
a good. That's probably, I'm not gonna lie, that might be one of the harder ones on the list to get. So that was a good call.
I remember that was the principal debate for some of that move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did Kelly Holcomb qualify?
Kelly Holcomb did not qualify.
Okay.
Yeah, and you asked that, so that's not your guess.
Yeah, if he qualified, I think he technically would be there. But if the 500 passes,
67. 67%.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember him being accurate.
Todd Collins?
No, Todd Collins. Todd Collins ended up. Where is he? I don't see him on my spreadsheet right now, but he's not.
Todd Collins.
He might not have qualified either. He might have been below the pass attempt one.
So how many do we have left there?
You got 4 left. Numbers 6, 8, 9, and 10.
And they're low too.
Yes. They range from 56.3 to 59.3.
I know Orton would be on there, but he doesn't qualify. I don't think.
Did not qualify. Yeah, he was close. He had 447 attempts.
I remember him being really up there.
Yeah, he's 64%. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So would that be number 1? Would he be number 1 if
we had it at 440 attempts, he would be number 1.
Wow.
Yeah, Holcomb would be the only one ahead of him if I remember.
Right? Yeah, he's the only non-wide receiver or running back ahead of him.
Who the hell left? JP Lossman.
Number 6, 59.3.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So now are you going back to? It doesn't count, but I would have guessed Kemp and Ferguson and people like that. Did they have above 56?
No.
Okay. The old school guys. Some of those guys were 48% and stuff like that back in the 60s and stuff 50s and 60s was crazy.
Yeah, it was ugly back then. You did not have to be as Patrick Mahomes.
See, by you doing the 500 is easier to me because then I'm gonna rule out the guys that might be bad and then the guys that like you just mentioned Holcomb and stuff. So now you're talking about just guys that played a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He said Bledsoe.
Yep.
EJ Manuel's got to be on there.
Number 8, 58.3%.
Exactly. See, it's just a list of who's
qualified.
Pathetic.
Who's qualified in modern football where you still kind of.
Mm-hmm.
He was 8. You said
number 8. Now you got
that's pathetic.
Yeah, isn't it though?
So Edwards, Lossman, Fitzpatrick.
Who else is there? I said Johnson.
Manuel.
Doug Flutie.
Doug Flutie's number 9.
Okay.
56.3%. Number 10 is tied with him for 56.3.
Well, then I know Josh Allen.
Yeah, number 10.
Okay.
Because I know Josh Allen's a 56% career percentage guy.
Yeah.
So, wow.
That was all 10. Yeah. And yeah, he
Nice.
qualified. He has 781 attempts right now. So yeah.
I think the only thing that made that easy is at the 500 attempts, because now I'm just thinking,
Who else got that far?
who wasn't on there, I guess, from modern Bills history? Like
Todd Collins, I guess, had 54.7%. He's right there.
Okay. I mean, Joe Ferguson and stuff, obviously. But.
Yeah, Joe Ferguson. But yeah, no, it's a tough list if you don't know the 500 attempts. Like that's that helps
that was
out
fun.
a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll keep it lighthearted to end the show here. Obviously, this year the postseason, it's a little different. We're going to see 7 teams instead of 6. Obviously, 1 division winner and then 3 wild cards. So let's go through, pick the division winners. Starting in the AFC East, I don't think we have a whole lot to talk about here, even though it's a Bills show. Like, I don't think.
I'll add in the one thing I will say is I think any Bills fan who is like beaten into submission that, hey, I'll believe it when I see it, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. It's okay to have expectations. This team has earned expectations. You should expect them to win the division. The Bills should win this division. It's okay to say that and to speak it out loud. The Bills should win this division. They should.
It's not something we're used to saying.
Yeah, it's fun to say that out loud, not feel weird or embarrassed.
And they have the 28th. So the strength of schedule everyone's harping on. They're playing LA. They're playing all the teams.
Yeah,
to me, it's like I look at the quarterbacks though. It's 28th against the quarterback. 27th. I'll take that
once
over
you take
strength of
Mahomes
schedule.
and Russell Wilson, it's a huge drop off.
There's no even tier 2 guy, Ben Roethlisberger. That's the only guy that they consider.
He's like 11th or 12th.
Yeah.
That you would consider there, and then it's everybody else in the middle range.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could be a little scared of Kyler Murray just because he's probably one of the more dynamic ones. If you're worried about more of a challenge and the receiver he has, but that's it.
He's better in fantasy than real football.
Exactly.
Absolutely. He absolutely is. And if you think about it, like, what does McDermott do good against? Like, we can argue how good he does against the top end guys till we're blue in the face. How well does he play against the bottom half?
What was Lamar Jackson's worst game of the year last year?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. He might have thrown. I think he threw for 3 touchdowns, but he had like 150 yards and he barely ran for anything. So the production from a yard standpoint.
And I think Kansas City is going to be a great game. It's at home. We may or may not have fans. I think he'll keep Mahomes in check-ish. And the point is, I love playing teams that I don't think have super good defenses, like Baltimore did. But in this case, I think potentially with this offense, it's going to be time that we score some points. I mean, it's that simple. And I think teams that have better defenses are a little more scary still to me. Like Baltimore is still a scarier matchup.
Definitely.
They can shut you down for large stretches of the game. They're just so good on that side of the ball. So it's great to have expectations in this season. I mean, I think it's worth it. The offense especially just got a lot better again, more continuity. The offensive line grew. Yeah. We'll see if that right side of the line is better with Cody Ford moving inside possibly. We've heard some rumblings with that.
Yeah.
I think it's more and more likely. I saw very weird athletic articles coming out about they can't say the positions or what group they're in. But
it's just so fun.
I think that what I've interpreted is that Darrell Williams might be on the inside job somewhere on the right side of that line.
Interesting. We've heard some similar things that it's sounding like Cody Ford's a guard. Yep. And that it's Nfc and Darrell Williams, and that Darrell Williams has the inside track, and that we'll likely have Nfc as a swing tackle. Right now, that's how I would project it from what we're hearing.
Yeah, it's great to have Nfc as a swing tackle because of how good he is at left tackle, too. If anything happens to Dion in a game and he has to play, it's great to have that kind of versatility on both sides. Really good swing tackle. And then we have read some things alluding to Brian Winters just kind of showing up, expecting to be the right guard and not, participating fully. Read some articles now that, he got bullied by Epinesa. And I've heard that his whole career.
Yeah, I've heard that he's looked better besides that one rep, but I believe firmly that if he's on the roster until Feliciano comes back.
Okay,
that he would just be a placeholder, and that as soon as because you don't want to cut
still,
you don't want to cut playable depth in case something happens forward in the game. But the moment that Feliciano's ready to be activated from IR,
does he get the guard job back though? How about that, Greg? Does
if they move forward?
That's a good question.
If they move forward, no. I think he comes back.
So you just swing guard, swing center
guard.
Would
be all three. He'd be the primary backup at all 3 spots. You might see if they went that route. I bet you would see some of the stuff that you saw last year with Nfc and Ford, not the 50-50. But I would bet that Feliciano would get a drive from each of the three guys, that you would end up seeing him play like 3 drives a game, and he would just take a drive to like keep him active and engaged and involved. I would bet you'd see something like that. But if you move forward, I don't think so. If you
Darrell Williams, huh?
Wow. And the whole thing was, what nobody knew is the film we saw last year in Carolina just what Darrell Williams is now, or was that him trying to push it, trying to keep a roster spot in the contract, coming back earlier than he should, playing out of position, and not fully recovered? And from everything we're hearing, his feet are back to the way that he was. He always was one of those kind of dancing bear guys that his feet moved really well for a guy his size, and that's what he's back to. And that we'll see it when it's live bullets and in the real thing, but if he's moving that well, that's why he was an all-pro. Like, I don't think that we just stumbled upon a $2.5 million all-pro, but it's not
like you re-sign him. They've been willing to do with Spain.
Yeah.
You re-sign.
I think it's identical. I think it's exactly that scenario. You got him on a discount deal, and then he plays well, and now all of a sudden, forward your guard, Williams is your right tackle, and that's your right side for 4
You have the whole line signed at that point.
4 more years.
Yeah. Well, you have the whole line. Though it is a good point. I think that would lock up the whole line for 3+ years.
Yes, for Josh Allen to have the same line guarding him for 4 years is even just outside of this year when continuity is so important. That'd be huge.
And then all your draft capital is just on replacement pieces. And then that, in that scenario, you probably wish Feliciano well because he's earned a starting spot somewhere. He's probably not going to come back as a primary backup, but maybe Evan Boehm comes back. Evan Boehm's a playable, interior swing guy. He can play that role. Maybe Trey Adams becomes that kind of swing tackle kind of guy, or that's what you draft for. You draft for a versatile, athletic tackle who can play both sides, that you don't have to rush into games and you can just play behind Williams and Dawkins. And I don't get ahead of myself. We still need to see Darrell Williams do that in a real game against real pass rushers and things. But the reviews we've gotten so far, how well he's played as a tandem with Ford, and how he's handled the speed rushes, and going against Addison and Hughes and those guys, that's no joke. Those are real pass rushers in the NFL, and he's passed the test so far.
So there you have it, guys. Between the O-line and how great Josh Allen looks in shorts and the great D-line, Bills winning the AFC East. Move on to AFC North. Not a whole lot of conversation to have there, right? We don't expect Burrow to come in and throw 50 touchdowns as a rookie. We don't expect Pittsburgh to get back to the same form with Roethlisberger throwing for 5,000 yards. Easy conversation for Baltimore.
It's tough to take against them.
Yeah. Ravens running away. I will say, I think they could have 3 playoff teams. I think the Steelers and the Browns could make some noise. I'll bring them up in a minute.
There you go. Then moving on, AFC West.
Same
Again, there's a few divisions like
Mahomes.
that.
Chiefs running away. I think we might see 14-2 or 15-1.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, really. And then, AFC South, can we just take one of those AFC North teams and put them in for the AFC South? Is that allowed? Like, Greg, what do you make of this mess of a division?
I mean, for as horrible of a GM as he is, the Texans have made the playoffs multiple years in a row. He wins playoff games. It's I think it's the Colts, but it's tough to pick against Deshaun Watson. I'm going to lean Colts, and I think Phillip Rivers, having a good line for the first time in a long time, gets enough one last run at it. So I'll say Colts in a close one, but I think this is a 9-7 division with, both the Texans and the Titans at 8-8, and the Jaguars maybe 0-16.
I'm going Jaguars. Yeah, that team's that roster is horrible.
Oh, it's so bad. So bad.
I can't they can't even joke about them. I think they're going
still a couple defensive pieces, but probably the worst offense in the NFL.
They're going for the first pick,
healthy chunk.
Yeah. Now that New England has Newton and whatever, I think they're after that first pick in full force. I'm going Tennessee. I just think they're always there at the end of the year. They're always playing a meaningful game.
Vrabel's a great coach.
Yeah.
He is,
They're against somebody to either win the division or absolutely lock up a playoff spot. So I have Tennessee in the playoffs. I hate playing them. They're annoying. We seem to always beat them, which is cool. I have a problem playing them. I love Darrington Evans, their backup running back, who's backed up Derrick Henry now. I like the success we've had against Tannehill, but I think he's been good enough there. I hate on him, but I think he's been good enough there, and that defense is good. It's really good. I'm going with Tennessee. I think Tennessee takes it.
Yeah, I could see it. I don't know if Tannehill will get back to the level he played at last year, and I hope, just because I love watching Derrick Henry play, and I hope his body can stand another year, but he just
Yep.
takes so many hits.
I just refuse to believe he's possible to break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. He's literally not a human being.
And they have a good offensive line. I like Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I would probably swing Houston just because of Deshaun Watson. He can make that magic happen.
He's special.
They have enough playmakers, meaning they have J.J. Watt on the defensive side of the ball where they can hold, good quarterbacks in check and everything. So, I would probably say Houston, and then I would lean Indy/Tennessee. We are a victim to the Zoom countdown clock, so we'll go rapid fire here for the last 2 minutes of the show or so. NFC East. Start with Kevin this time.
Who the heck knows in that stupid division?
I think that the no longer led by Jason Garrett
Pass.
Cowboys make a significant step forward just because they don't have Jason Garrett.
We'll go Dallas. We'll go double Dallas.
I would say Dallas too. Their receivers are too good to not make the playoffs this year, no matter how bad Dak folds against bad teams.
Yeah, I think it's them.
Then NFC North, you have an aging Aaron Rodgers with love behind him. What are we doing here?
I'm on the full petty revenge tour train of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's got one last run in him.
Yeah, one last run.
I can't. Green Bay was good again last year, even though he wasn't good. I'm going with Green Bay. Minnesota doesn't have it. I'm going Green Bay.
Kirk Cousins ain't it.
Yeah, he's not it. They lost Diggs. Matt Stafford has a terrible defense again.
Chicago doesn't have a quarterback. Yeah, we're going.
Yeah. NFC West. This might be the most interesting division out there.
I think it's still Niners, but I think the Seahawks give them a run.
I'm going Seahawks. Yeah, I think Seahawks. I'd like Russell this year.
Yeah, I would go with the Seahawks as well. I just don't think Jimmy G is going to – he looked good at the beginning of the year last year, but then he just looked normal, kind of. So, replaceable
the Saints
guy.
by far, the Saints. It's not
Yeah, Saints. Yeah. I think Tampa gives them a run, but I think Saints are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best all around.
This is great. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, keeping with me here to end out the show in a quickly fashion. Quickly, that's not a word. Is it? No, that's a word. Just use wrong. As a reminder, guys, the show's sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. Make sure you make them a part of your game day traditions right now. Support local businesses. And make sure you enter our signed Zach Moss jersey giveaway. We're going to announce the winner on Saturday. Greg, thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure to finally connect with you over Zoom here. We'll do this again soon, okay?